Admiral Krixval stared at the planet Earth through the main viewer of his flagship. The blue world looked so peaceful, but he now knew it was home to the most dangerous species he had ever encountered. His fleet had won the space battle, but the cost had been enormous. Nearly 100 ships destroyed or damaged by an enemy that should have been helpless. "Sir," his tactical officer said nervously, "shall we begin the planetary bombardment?" Krixval was quiet for a long moment. Standard procedure was to destroy the major cities from orbit, then land troops to secure the remaining population. But nothing about this mission had been standard. "How many ships do we have left that are combat ready?" he asked. 112, sir. But many of those have damage and reduced firepower." The admiral considered his options. He could still attack Earth, but the humans had already proven they would fight to the death. How many more ships would he lose trying to conquer a planet full of beings who saw suicide attacks as normal tactics? Before he could make a decision, his communications officer spoke up urgently. "Sir, we have multiple contacts approaching from the edge of the system. It appears to be another human fleet." Krixval felt his blood turn cold. "How many ships?" "At least 300, sir. And these appeared to be military vessels, not converted civilian craft." Captain Sam Rodriguez had survived the first battle when his ship, the Golden Dream, was one of the few vessels to escape the destruction. Now he was leading Earth's reserve fleet toward the alien invaders. These ships had been hidden throughout the outer solar system, waiting for exactly this moment. "All ships," Rodriguez broadcast. "The aliens think they have won. Let us show them they are wrong." This new human fleet was different from the first one. These were warships built specifically for combat, armed with weapons designed from captured alien technology. They had been constructed in secret shipyards on the moons of Saturn and Jupiter, while the aliens were focused on Earth. Admiral Krixval watched the approaching ships with growing despair. His fleet was already damaged from the first battle, and his crews were exhausted. Now he faced a fresh enemy force that was almost as large as his remaining ships. "Sir," his weapons officer said, "the human vessels are not approaching in standard formation. They appear to be spreading out to surround us." The humans had learned from the first battle. Instead of charging directly at the alien fleet, they were using tactics that would force the Zephyrians to fight on multiple fronts simultaneously. "Begin evasive maneuvers," Krixval ordered. All ships prepared to retreat to the edge of the system. But retreat was easier said than done. The human ships were faster than expected, and their weapons were more powerful than before. Captain Rodriguez had studied the battle recordings from the first engagement and learned how to hurt Zephyrian ships more effectively, target their engine sections. He ordered his fleet. "Do not try to destroy them completely. Just damage them enough so they cannot run away." The second battle of Earth was very different from the first. The humans used coordinated attacks, hitting alien ships from multiple directions while avoiding the heaviest weapons. They had learned to fight smart instead of just fighting hard. Lieutenant Colonel Ben Travis watched the space battle from his hidden base on one of Saturn's moons. His special operations team had been preparing for this moment for weeks. While the two fleets fought each other, he and his soldiers would strike at the most important target of all. "Sergeant Walsh," he said to his demolitions expert, "are the charges ready?" Amy Walsh nodded grimly. "Everything is set, sir. If we can get close enough to their flagship, we can take out their entire command structure." Travis and his 13 soldiers climbed into their stealth ship for what would be their most dangerous mission yet. They were going to board the enemy flagship while it was in the middle of a space battle and kill the alien Admiral Dot. It was the kind of mission that should have been impossible. But humans had been doing impossible things for thousands of years. Admiral Krixval was fighting for his life. His fleet was being torn apart by the second human attack, and his flagship was taking heavy damage. Explosions rocked the bridge as human missiles found their targets. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we have lost contact with 12 more ships. The humans are systematically destroying our fleet." "How is this possible?" Crick's volume demanded. "These are the same primitives who were shooting chemical rockets at us yesterday." What the Admiral did not understand was that humans learn from their mistakes faster than any other species in the galaxy. Each battle taught them new ways to fight, and they adapted their tactics accordingly. While the space battle raged around them, Travis and his team docked with the Zephyrian flagship. The alien crew was too busy fighting the external battle to notice the small stealth ship attaching to their hull. "Remember," Travis told his soldiers, "we have 20 minutes to reach the bridge and complete the mission. After that, the charges will detonate whether we are clear or not." They moved through the alien ship like shadows of death. Any Zephyrian who tried to stop them was killed quickly and silently. They had trained for this mission for months, studying every detail of alien ship design. Admiral Crick's volume was coordinating his fleet's retreat when the bridge doors exploded inward. Human soldiers poured into the command center, their weapons firing. Half of his bridge crew was dead before he could even react. Lieutenant Colonel Travis stepped through the smoke and pointed his weapon directly at the alien admiral. "Surrender your fleet or die where you stand." Cricksval looked into the human's cold eyes and saw something that terrified him. This was not a soldier fighting for conquest or glory. This was a predator protecting its territory, and it would kill without hesitation or mercy. "What do you want?" the admiral asked. "I want you to take your remaining ships and leave this system," Travis replied. "And I want you to send a message to your empire. Tell them that Earth is protected by humans, and humans do not surrender." "And if I refuse?" Travis smiled without warmth. "Then you die here, and my explosives destroy your ship. Either way, your fleet leaves without its commander." Admiral Crick's volume realized he had no choice. His fleet was being destroyed, his flagship was captured, and he was facing an enemy that would kill him without a second thought. "All ships," he broadcast with a heavy heart. "This is Admiral Cricksval. Retreat immediately. Set course for home." Lay. Surviving Zephyrian ships turned and fled toward the edge of the solar system. They left behind the wreckage of over 100 vessels and thousands of dead crew members. It was the Empire's first military defeat in 3 centuries. Travis and his team escaped from the alien flagship just before their charges detonated. The explosion of the Sword of Empire lit up space like a second sun, sending a message that could be seen throughout the solar system. On Earth, people cheered as they watched the alien fleet retreat. They had won, but the cost had been enormous. Hundreds of thousands of people had died in the space battles, and entire cities had been damaged by falling wreckage. President Allen Hughes addressed the world from the ruins of New York, where pieces of destroyed spaceships had fallen like metal. Rain. "Today, humanity proved that we will never surrender to any enemy, no matter how powerful they might be." General Patricia Woods stood beside him, her uniform dirty and torn from the battle. "We have sent a message to the galaxy. Earth is not a world to be conquered. Earth is a world to be feared." 6 months later, Captain Sam Rodriguez led a small human fleet beyond the solar system for the first time. Their mission was simple: find other worlds that might be threatened by the Zephyrian Empire and offer them an alliance. At the first alien world they visited, Rodriguez was invited to speak before the Galactic Council. Representatives from dozens of different species listened as he explained what had happened at Earth. The Zephyrian Empire thought they were conquering a primitive world, he told the assembled aliens. Instead, they discovered that humans are not primitives. "We are the descendants of apex predators from a death world. We have spent 10,000 years learning how to fight enemies that are stronger than us. Rodriguez looked around the chamber, at the various alien faces. Some looked curious, others looked frightened. All of them were paying very close attention. Earth offers friendship to all peaceful species, he continued. But any empire that threatens human worlds will discover why we conquered our own planet before we reached for the stars. The Galactic Council voted unanimously to mark human space as a protected zone. The Zephyrian Empire was officially censured and forbidden from expanding toward Earth. And throughout the galaxy, military commanders updated their star charts with a new designation for the Sol system: extreme caution, Death World species, do not engage. The Empire had learned too late that they had picked a fight with the wrong species. Humans did not just defend their worlds. They turned defense into an art form that left their enemies broken and fleeing. The galaxy would remember the lesson for a very long time. The massive Zephyrian invasion fleet filled the space around Jupiter like a metal cloud. Admiral Krixval stood on the bridge of his flagship, Sword of Empire, and watched the third planet grow larger on his screens. Earth looked peaceful from this distance, blue and white and beautiful. Soon it would be another conquered world in the Empire's collection. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we are detecting massive movement from the human homeworld. Hundreds of ships are launching from the surface." Crick's volume studied the readings with interest. The humans had rebuilt their fleet faster than expected, but these new ships looked different from the military vessels they had fought before. "Analysis," he ordered. "Many of them appeared to be civilian craft, sir. Cargo ships, passenger liners, mining vessels. They have been armed with primitive weapons." The Admiral laughed. "They are so desperate, they are sending their merchant ships against us. This will be easier than I thought." But Commander Rick Hayes, leading the defense of Earth's orbital ring, had a different plan. He was not trying to win a conventional space battle. He was trying to buy time for something much more important. "All civilian ships," he broadcast, "remember your orders. You are not trying to destroy enemy vessels. You are trying to create chaos and confusion. Make them think we have more ships than we do." Every passenger liner had been converted into a missile platform. Every cargo ship carried nuclear weapons. Every mining vessel had been turned into a flying bomb. It was not elegant, but it might work. Katie Brooks, chief engineer at Earth's largest shipyard, watched her creations launch into space. She had spent 3 months turning peaceful ships into weapons of war. Cruise ships now carried enough firepower to level cities. Freight haulers had been converted into troop transports armed with stolen alien technology. "They wanted a fight," she said to herself, "so we will give them one they will never forget." The human fleet was enormous. Over 800 ships of all sizes and types. Most of them were not designed for combat, but they were crewed by people who had volunteered to die for their world. Captain Sam Rodriguez piloted the converted luxury liner Golden Dream toward the alien fleet. His ship had once carried wealthy tourists to vacation destinations. Now it carried 50 nuclear missiles and a crew of volunteers who knew they were probably not coming home. "This is Rodriguez to all ships," he broadcast. "Remember, we are not just fighting for Earth. We are fighting to show these aliens that humans do not give up. Ever." The battle began when the two fleets came within weapons range. The Zephyrians opened fire first, their energy weapons lighting up space like lightning. Human ships began exploding immediately, but for every vessel they lost, 2 more took its place. Admiral Krixval watched the battle with growing confusion. The humans were not fighting like any species he had ever encountered. Instead of trying to preserve their ships, they seemed to be throwing them away as fast as possible. "Sir," his weapons officer reported, The enemy vessels are ramming our ships. They are using their own craft as guided missiles. All of them? Crick's volume asked in disbelief. Many of them, sir. We have destroyed over 200 human ships, but they keep coming, and they are causing significant damage to our vessels. This was not how space battles were supposed to work. Civilized species tried to minimize their losses while inflicting maximum damage on the enemy. But the humans seemed to consider their own ships as expendable weapons. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Lisa Carter was working on something that could change the entire war. She had been studying captured alien technology since the first battle, and she had made an important discovery. General Woods, she said urgently into her communicator, I think I know why the humans are so different from other species in the galaxy. General Patricia Woods was in the command bunker, coordinating the defense of Earth. She had been watching the space battle for hours, seeing ship after ship destroyed by alien weapons. What do you mean, Doctor? I have been analyzing alien biology. From the wreckage of their ships, Lisa explained. Their brain structure is different from ours. They process fear and stress in ways that make them cautious and careful. And humans? Humans evolved on a death world, General. When we get scared or stressed, our brains release chemicals that make us more aggressive, more willing to take risks. What the aliens see as suicidal behavior is actually how human brains are designed to work. This explained everything. Humanity had evolved on a planet where everything was trying to kill them. Predators, diseases, natural disasters, other humans. Survival meant being willing to fight even when the odds were hopeless. Doctor, Wood said slowly, are you telling me that humans are naturally more dangerous than other intelligent species? That is exactly what I am telling you, General. We are not just fighting the Zephyrians. We are showing them what happens when a predator species reaches the stars. In space, the battle was reaching its climax. The human fleet had been reduced to less than 300 ships, but they had destroyed or damaged over 80 Zephyrian vessels. The aliens were winning, but they were paying a much higher price than expected. Captain Rodriguez watched his weapons officer load the last nuclear missile. The Golden Dream was badly damaged and half his crew was dead, but they were still fighting. All remaining ships, he broadcast. This is our last chance. Hit them with everything we have. The final wave of human ships charged toward the Zephyrian fleet. Damaged cargo haulers rammed into alien destroyers. Burning passenger liners fired their last missiles at enemy cruisers. Mining ships packed with explosives detonated against Zephyrian hulls. Admiral Cricksvall watched his tactical display with growing horror. His fleet was winning the battle, but it was costing him ships he could not afford to lose. The humans were trading 3 ships for every one of his, but they seemed to have an endless supply of vessels willing to die. Sir, his communications. Officer reported, we are receiving a transmission from the human planet. Put it through. Crick's volume ordered. The face that appeared on his screen belonged to General Woods. She looked tired but determined. Admiral, she said calmly, I am General Patricia Woods of the United Earth Defense Command. I want you to understand something before you attack our world. Surrender now and your people will be treated fairly, Crick's volume replied. Woods smiled. Coldly, that is not going to happen. What you have seen today is just the beginning. Every man, woman, and child on Earth is prepared to fight you. We will turn our cities into fortresses. We will use our own buildings as weapons. We will make you pay for every meter of ground you take. The general paused to let her words sink in. But more importantly, Admiral, you need to understand what you are really fighting. You think you are conquering a primitive world, but Earth is not primitive. Earth is a death world, and humans are what evolved to survive on a death world. Cricksvall felt a chill run down his spine. Death worlds were legendary in the galaxy. Planets so dangerous that only the most vicious predators could evolve intelligence. The Empire had standing orders to avoid death worlds completely. "You are lying," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Look at your casualties, Admiral. Look at how my people fight. Does this seem like the behavior of a peaceful species? We have been preparing for war since we learned to make fire. Our entire civilization is built around the idea of fighting enemies that are stronger than us." Woods leaned forward, her eyes hard as steel. "You want to conquer Earth? Fine. But understand that you are not fighting farmers and merchants. You are fighting the descendants of apex predators who spent 10,000 years learning how to kill things that were bigger, stronger, and better armed than they were." The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Crick's volume staring at a blank screen. Around him, his bridge crew waited for orders. They had won the space battle, but at a cost of nearly 100 ships and thousands of lives. "Sir," his tactical officer said quietly, "what are your orders regarding planetary invasion?" Crick's volume looked at his remaining fleet. He still had enough ships to attack Earth, but the human general's words echoed in his mind. Death world, apex predators, a species that evolved to fight impossible odds. For the first time in his career, Admiral Crick's Fall began to wonder if the Empire had made a terrible mistake. On Earth, people watched the burning remains of their fleet fall through the atmosphere like shooting stars. They had lost the space battle, but they had also learned. Fleet Admiral Zexmore stared at the report on his desk for the third time. The words did not make sense, no matter how many times he read them. A Category F world had destroyed a Zephyrian dreadnought. It was impossible. "Commander Telrix," he called to his aide, "bring me everything we have on Admiral Krixtal's mission to the Sol System." Commander Telrix was a young officer who had served under Zexmore for 5 years. He had never seen his superior look so confused. "Sir, the files show it was supposed to be a standard conquest operation. 1 ship, minimal resistance expected." Zexmore pulled up the battle recordings that had been transmitted from the Eternal Dominion before it was destroyed. The images showed human ships attacking with what could only be called controlled madness. "Look at this," he said, pointing to one section of the recording. "The humans are ramming our ship with their own vessels. They are killing themselves to damage us." "Perhaps their navigation systems were damaged, sir?" Telrix suggested. 28 ships with damaged navigation systems? All attacking in the same way? Zexmore shook his head. No, this was planned. They meant to do this. The Admiral had been in command of Zephyrian fleets for 30 years. He had conquered dozens of worlds and fought in the Great War against the Kellian Republic. He had never seen anything like what these humans had done. "Sir," Telrix said carefully, "what are your orders regarding the Sol System?" Zexmore was quiet for a long moment. "Send a message to High Command. Tell them we need to reassess the threat level of this world and prepare the 4th and 7th fleets for deployment." Meanwhile, Earth was trying to rebuild after the battle. The loss of Luna Station 7 and most of the Deep Space Fleet was a serious blow to humanity's defenses. But it had also taught them something important about their enemy, Lieutenant Colonel. Ben Travis was in charge of Earth's special operations in space. He was a quiet man with cold eyes who had fought in 3 different wars before joining the Space Forces. Now he was planning something that had never been tried before. "Sergeant Walsh," he called to his demolitions expert, "what do you know about alien technology?" Sergeant Amy Walsh had been studying the wreckage from the battle for weeks. She was one of the few people on Earth who understood explosives well enough to work with alien materials. "Not much, sir," she admitted, "but I have learned some interesting things from the debris. Their metal is strong, but it melts at high temperatures. Their energy systems seem to overload if you hit them in the right places." Ben nodded. What I am thinking is this. We cannot fight them ship to ship. They are too strong. But we might be able to hit them in ways they do not expect. Amy looked at the plan he showed her. It was dangerous and probably impossible. It was also exactly the kind of thing that humans did best. You want us to board their ships, sir? Not board. Infiltrate. Get inside, plant explosives, and get out before they know we are there. It was the kind of mission that would have been considered suicide by any other species in the galaxy. But humans had been doing impossible things for thousands of years. 3 months later, the Zephyrian 4th and 7th fleets arrived at the edge of the Sol system. Over 200 ships, including 5 massive dreadnoughts and dozens of support vessels. It was the largest fleet the Empire had ever sent against a single world. Admiral Krixvolume commanded the 4th Fleet from his flagship, the Sword of Empire. He was Admiral Krixtal's brother, and he wanted revenge for his sibling's death. All ships, he broadcast. We will show these primitive humans the price of defying the Empire. Destroy everything in this system. But as the alien fleet moved toward Earth, Lieutenant Colonel Travis and his team were already at work. Using captured alien technology, they had built small stealth ships that could avoid detection. These ships were too small for weapons, but perfect for infiltration missions. Travis and 12 other soldiers approached the Zephyrian fleet in complete silence. Their ship was barely larger than a fighter craft, but it was invisible to alien sensors. Remember, Travis told his team, we plant the charges and get out. We are not here to fight. We are here to cause chaos. They docked with a Zephyrian supply ship that was carrying fuel and ammunition. The alien crew never saw them coming. Within 20 minutes, Amy Walsh had planted explosives throughout the vessel's cargo holds. Timer is set for 30 minutes, she whispered into her radio. We need to be gone. But as they prepared to leave, they discovered something important. The supply ship was connected to 3 other vessels by fuel lines. If one ship exploded, it would destroy all 4. Change of plans, Travis said. We take out as many as we can. His team spread out through the connected ships, planting charges in critical systems. They moved like shadows through the alien corridors, avoiding patrols and security systems. 20-8 minutes later, they were back in their stealth ship and moving away from the Zephyrian fleet. 2 minutes after that, the explosions began. Admiral Krixval watched in shock as 4 of his supply ships disappeared in balls of fire. The explosions were so large, they damaged 2 nearby destroyers and a heavy cruiser. What happened? He demanded. Unknown, sir, his tactical officer replied. The ships just exploded. There was no attack, no weapons fire. They simply blew up. Before Krixvolume could figure out what had happened, more explosions rocked his fleet. A munition transport detonated, taking out a communications ship. A fuel tanker exploded, damaging its escort vessels. Sir, the tactical officer reported urgently, we are losing ships throughout the fleet. Something is attacking us, but we cannot see what it is. Travis and his team struck 6 more times over the next 4 hours. Each attack targeted supply ships, fuel transports, and communication vessels. They never fought the enemy directly, but they crippled the Zephyrian fleet's ability to function. On Earth, people watched the battle through telescopes and deep space sensors. They could see the explosions lighting up space near Jupiter, but they did not understand what was happening. General Woods received regular reports from Travis's team. Each message was the same. Mission successful. Moving to next target. Mr. President, she told Alan Hughes, our special operations team is doing something that should be impossible. They are destroying enemy ships without being detected. President. Hughes looked at the tactical display. The alien fleet was still enormous, but it was in chaos. Ships were breaking formation. Communications were disrupted, and several vessels were on fire. "How many men does Travis have?" he asked. 13, sir, including himself. 13 people are doing this to a fleet of 200 ships? Woods nodded. It appears so, Mr. President. Admiral Crick's volume was losing control of his fleet. His communications were disrupted, his supply lines were cut, and his officers were reporting mysterious explosions throughout the formation. "Sir," his intelligence officer said, "I believe we are facing some kind of stealth attack. Small craft are infiltrating our ships and sabotaging them from within." "Impossible," Cricksval replied. "Our sensors would detect any approaching ships." "Not if they are using our own technology against us, sir." This was something the Admiral had never considered. The humans were using captured Zephyrian equipment to build stealth ships. It was brilliant and terrifying at the same time. "Find them," he ordered. "I want every ship to scan for intruders. Check all docking ports and cargo bays." But Travis and his team were already gone. They had returned to their base on one of Saturn's moons, where they were preparing for the next phase of their mission. "Sergeant Walsh," Travis said, "how many more charges do we have?" "Enough for maybe 10 more ships, sir. But we are running low on everything else." Travis looked at the tactical display showing the alien fleet. They had damaged or destroyed over 30 vessels, but there were still more than 150 ships heading toward Earth. "We have hurt them," he said, "but we have not stopped them. We need to do something bigger." Amy studied the intelligence reports they had gathered during their infiltration missions. She had learned something interesting about Zephyrian technology during her sabotage work. "Sir," she said, "what if we do not target individual ships? What if we go after their flagship?" Travis looked at her with interest. "Explain." "The Zephyrians control their entire fleet from the command ship. If we can take out their admiral and his staff, the rest of the fleet might retreat." It was the most dangerous mission they had attempted yet. The flagship would be heavily guarded and filled with security systems. But it might be their only chance to stop the invasion. "All right," Travis said, "we go after the big fish. But this time, we are not just planting bombs and running. We are going to send a message that the entire galaxy will hear." As the Zephyrian fleet continued toward Earth, 13 humans prepared to do something that no other species in the galaxy would even attempt. They were going to attack the most heavily defended ship in the enemy fleet, and they were going to do it with nothing but explosives, determination, and the kind of crazy courage that made humans the most dangerous species in the universe. President Allen Hughes had not slept in 2 days. He sat in the emergency command center deep under the White House, surrounded by screens showing military positions around the world. Every leader of every nation was connected by video link, waiting for his decision. "Mr. President," General Patricia Wood said, "we have confirmation that the alien ship is moving toward Earth. It will be in weapons range in 18 hours. Alan looked around the room at the faces of his advisors. Some looked scared, others looked angry. All of them were waiting for him to tell them what to do. "General, what do we have that can fight this thing?" he asked. Patricia pulled up a list. On the main screen, 12 orbital defense stations around Earth, 37 combat ships, most of them stationed near the moon, about 400 fighter craft, 200,000 soldiers in our space forces. The numbers sounded impressive until you remembered they were facing technology from another star system. It was like trying to fight a modern army with stone. "Age weapons. What about nuclear weapons?" asked Secretary of Defense Bob Martin. "We have them," Patricia replied, "but we do not know if they will work against alien shields. Their technology is hundreds of years ahead of ours." On Luna Station 7, Captain Jake Morrison was preparing his crew for battle. The station had been designed as a research outpost, not a fortress, but they were going to fight anyway. Lisa, what do we know about their weapons? He asked Dr. Carter. She looked tired. She had been studying the alien ship's energy readings for hours. They have some kind of energy-based weapon system, much more powerful than anything we have. Their shields can probably stop our missiles. Probably is not definitely, Jake said. We work with what we have. The human fleet began moving into position. Every ship that could fly was called into service. Military vessels, cargo ships, even passenger liners were armed with whatever weapons could be found. If Earth was going to fall, it would not fall without a fight. Admiral Crickstall watched the primitive ships gathering near the third planet. He counted 37 military vessels and dozens of smaller craft. It was actually more resistance than he had expected from such a backward world. Sub-Commander Velnix, he called to his communications officer. Send another message to the planet. Tell them they have one last chance to surrender. The message was broadcast to Earth. Human leaders, you cannot win this battle. Your weapons are too weak, and your ships are too slow. Surrender now, and your people will be treated fairly. Continue to resist, and we will destroy every city on your planet. President Hughes received the message in the command center. Around him, military leaders from every nation waited for his response. The weight of 8 billion lives rested on his next words. General Woods, he said calmly, tell our ships to attack. A message went out immediately. Every human vessel in space received the same order. Engage the enemy. Captain Morrison led the charge from Luna Station 7. His station was not built for combat, but it had the best sensors and communications equipment in the human fleet. He would coordinate the battle from there. All ships, this is Morrison, he broadcast. Remember, we are not just fighting for Earth. We are fighting for the right of humanity to exist as a free species. Show them what humans can do. The battle began when the human fleet entered weapons range. The alien ship, Eternal Dominion, was massive compared to the largest human vessels. It looked like a floating city made of metal and energy. Jake watched his tactical display as human missiles launched toward the alien ship. Most of them were stopped by energy shields that flickered around the vessel like lightning. But some got through. Small explosions bloomed against the alien hull. We are hitting them, Lisa reported with excitement. Their shields are not perfect. Admiral Crickstall felt the impacts on his ship and frowned. The humans were actually damaging his vessel. It was not serious damage, but it should not have been possible at all. Return fire, he ordered. Show them the power of the Empire. The Eternal Dominion's main weapons fired. Beams of pure energy lanced out toward the human ships. The first beam hit a destroyer called the Boston. The ship simply vanished in a ball of fire and metal, but instead of retreating, the human ships moved closer. This confused Crickstall. In every other conquest, the local forces had pulled back when they saw their ships being destroyed. Sir Velnix reported, the human vessels are accelerating toward us. They appear to be attempting some kind of ramming attack. The Admiral stared at his screen in disbelief. They are trying to ram us? With their primitive ships? It seemed impossible. Number. Civilized species would sacrifice their ships and crews in such a hopeless attack. But the humans were doing exactly that. Captain Steve Parker of the destroyer Atlanta aimed his ship directly at the alien vessel. His engines were at full power, and his crew was ready to die. This is Parker to all ships, he broadcast. If we are going down, we are taking some of them with us, for Earth. The Atlanta struck the Eternal Dominion's hull at full speed. The explosion was enormous. Both ships disappeared in a ball of fire that lit up space like a new star. Jake Morrison watched from Luna Station 7 as his friend Steve died along with his entire crew. But their sacrifice was not wasted. The alien ship was damaged. Pieces of its hull were floating away into space. All remaining ships, Jake ordered, continue the attack. Make every shot count. The battle continued for 3 hours. The humans lost 28 ships and over 4,000 people. But they kept fighting. Every time one of their vessels was destroyed, the others moved closer and fired more missiles. Admiral Krixtal was shaken. His ship was badly damaged, and his crew was reporting injuries. The humans had actually hurt them. These primitive beings with their crude weapons had managed to damage a Zephyrian dreadnought. "Sir," Velnik said urgently, "more human ships are approaching. They appear to be cargo vessels that have been armed with weapons." Krixtal looked at his tactical display. The humans were sending everything they had. Ships that were never meant for combat were charging toward his vessel with missiles attached to their hulls. "This is madness," he said to himself. "What kind of species fights like this?" On Earth, billions of people watched the battle on television and computer screens. They saw their ships being destroyed one by one. They saw their friends and family members dying in space. But they also saw something else. They saw that the aliens could be hurt. General Woods coordinated the battle from Earth. Every few minutes, she received reports from the surviving ships. The news was always the same. Heavy losses, but the alien ship was taking damage. "Mr. President," she said to Alan Hughes, "our people are dying up there. But they are proving something important. The aliens are not invincible." President Hughes nodded grimly. "How long can we keep this up?" "Not long. We have lost most of our combat ships, but the remaining vessels are all volunteers. They know the odds, and they are still fighting." The final phase of the battle came when Captain Morrison made a decision. That would change everything. Luna Station 7 was the largest human facility in space, and it was armed with defensive weapons. "Lisa," he said to Dr. Carter, "can we ram their ship with the station?" She looked at him with wide eyes. "Jake, that would kill everyone on board, over 2,000 people. If we do not try, Earth falls. The choice is simple." Jake opened a communication channel to the entire station. "Attention all personnel. We have one chance to stop the alien ship. I am asking for volunteers to stay and help guide the station into a collision course. Everyone else should evacuate immediately. Out." Of 2,000 people on Luna Station 7, over 1,500 volunteered to stay. They knew they would die, but they also knew their sacrifice might save Earth. The station began moving toward the Eternal Dominion. Admiral Krixtal watched in horror as the massive human facility accelerated toward his ship. "Retreat," he ordered. "Full power to engines. Get us away from here." But it was too late. Luna Station 7 struck the Eternal Dominion with the force of a small asteroid. Both structures disappeared in an explosion that could be seen from Earth with the naked eye. Captain Jake Morrison died along with his crew, but his sacrifice worked. The alien ship was destroyed. Admiral Krixtal and his entire fleet were gone. On Earth, President Hughes received the final report. The battle was over. Humanity had won, but the cost was enormous. Over 6,000 people had died in space, including some of Earth's best pilots and officers. "Mr. President," General Woods said quietly, "we stopped them. But this was just one ship. If they send more—" Hughes nodded. He understood the situation perfectly. Humanity had won the first battle, but the war was just beginning. Somewhere out in space, an entire empire now knew that Earth would fight back. The question was, would they respect humanity's courage, or would they send an even larger fleet to finish what they had started? The radio signal traveled through space for 3 months before Admiral Krixtal noticed it. He was sitting in his command chair on the bridge of his flagship when his communications officer brought the strange transmission to his attention. "Sir, we have picked up something unusual from the third planet in the Sol system," the young officer said. His name was Sub-Commander Velnix, and he had never seen anything like this before. Admiral Krixtal looked at the data on his screen. The signal was weak and primitive. It came from a small blue world that his scouts had marked as unimportant years ago. The planet was mostly water with some land masses. Early scans showed it had life, but nothing that seemed worth their time. "What kind of signal is it?" the Admiral asked. "It appears to be some form of basic communication, sir. Very crude. The beings on this planet seem to be trying to send messages into space." Krixtal smiled. This was always exciting. Finding a new world with intelligent life meant more resources for the Empire, more slaves to work in their mines, more soldiers to fight in their armies. The Admiral had been in charge of the Third Galactic Fleet for 20 years. In that time, he had conquered 7 different worlds. Each one had been easy. The local populations always gave up quickly when they saw the power of Zephyrian technology. "Bring up everything we know about this planet," he ordered. The main screen filled with information. The planet was called Earth by its inhabitants. It had 1 moon and was the right distance from its star to support life. The population was estimated at around 8 billion beings. "Look at this," Velnix said, pointing to new data. "They have been sending signals into space for over 100 of their years. Radio waves, television broadcasts, even some basic satellite communications." Krixtal studied the information more carefully. The humans, as they called themselves, had primitive technology. Their fastest ships could barely reach their own moon. Their weapons were chemical-based and crude. They still fought wars with each other using bullets and explosives. "They are still divided into separate nations," Velnix reported. "Over 200 different governments. They fight each other constantly." This made the Admiral laugh. "Perfect. A divided world is always easier to conquer. They will not be able to work together against us." He called up the standard conquest files. Every world the Empire had taken followed the same pattern. First, they would analyze the local technology and population. Then they would send one large warship to demonstrate their power. Usually, the locals would surrender immediately when they saw how advanced Zephyrian technology was. "Classify this world as Category F," the Admiral ordered. "Primitive beings with basic technology. Standard conquest protocol will apply." Category F was the lowest rating the Empire gave to intelligent worlds. It meant the inhabitants were barely above animal level. They would be useful as workers, but would need constant supervision. Meanwhile, billions of miles away, Captain Jake Morrison was having a normal day at Luna Station 7. The space station orbited Earth's moon and served as humanity's primary deep space monitoring post. Jake was a former Marine who had joined the Earth Defense Force 5 years earlier. "Captain, we are getting something strange on the long-range scanners," said Dr. Lisa Carter, his science officer. She was one of the smartest people Jake had ever worked with. If she said something was strange, it was worth paying attention to. "What kind of strange?" Jake asked, walking over to her station. "There is a large object moving toward our solar system. It is much bigger than anything we have ever built. And it is definitely artificial." Jake felt his stomach drop. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now it looked like they were about to get their answer. "How long until it gets here?" he asked. Lisa checked her calculations. "At its current speed, about 6 days." Jake immediately sent a message to Earth Defense Command. Within hours, every military leader on Earth knew that something was coming. Toward them from deep space, the object was huge. Early scans showed it was over 2 miles long and packed with technology that humanity did not understand. It was clearly a spaceship, but unlike anything humans had ever imagined. President Allen Hughes called an emergency meeting. General Patricia Woods, the head of Earth's military forces, gathered all available information about the approaching vessel. "We have to assume this is not a friendly visit," she told the president. "Any species that can build something that large and travel between star systems is far ahead of us in technology." On the 6th day, the alien ship entered Earth's solar system. It moved slowly, as if its occupants were studying everything they passed. It scanned each planet carefully before moving on to the next. Admiral Krixtal was pleased with what he saw. The humans had built some basic space stations and a few small ships, but nothing that could threaten his dreadnought. His ship, the Eternal Dominion, was equipped with weapons that could destroy entire cities. "Open a communication channel to the third planet," he ordered. The message was broadcast on all human frequencies. Every radio, television, and computer on Earth received the same transmission at the same time. "People of Earth," the message began. "I am Admiral Krixtal of the Zephyrian Empire. Your world now belongs to us. You will surrender immediately and prepare for occupation. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your cities and the death of millions of your people. You have 1 day to respond." Jake Morrison listened to the message from Luna Station 7. Around him, his crew sat in shocked silence. They had always known this day might come, but nobody had really believed it would happen. "Sir," Lisa said quietly, "what do we do now?" Jake looked out at the stars through the station's observation window. Somewhere out there was a ship full of aliens who thought they could just take over Earth. They had no idea what they were dealing with. Humans had spent thousands of years fighting wars. They had conquered their own planet through endless battles. Every weapon, every tactic, every strategy had been tested in real combat against other humans who were just as smart and just as determined. "We fight," Jake said simply. "We show them. They picked the wrong planet to mess with." The message went out to every human military base, every ship, and every soldier. Earth would not surrender. The aliens wanted a war, and humanity was ready to give them one.